Hey everyone, Lawrence Mack here, real estate broker out of Mississauga, Toronto, and I'm here with Daniel Steinfeld from On the Block, broker owner. How you doing, Dan?
I am spectacular, Lawrence. Good to see you.
That's awesome. Today we're just gonna go chit chat with Daniel here. We're both candidates for director at large at TREB, which everyone should go vote on May 12th to May 17th. And again, the election of the directors is just to form the board of directors, which governs Toronto Real Estate Board in general. And Toronto Real Estate Board is the largest board in the world, according to the president, which I'm pretty sure is true, but I haven't really verified that. But regardless, just thought I would introduce Dan and we'll just go from there.
Sounds good. I believe it. I believe what I'm told. So yes, it is. It is the biggest. It is the biggest. Yeah.
So Daniel, how did you get started in real estate out of curiosity, just so everyone can know?
Initially, I started really because my wife, who's my co-owner of the brokerage, and at the time this brokerage didn't exist, but she was in real estate and we were expecting our fourth kid at the time. So this is about 7.5 years ago. And I figured, you know what, this was a really good opportunity to get into the industry, also provide maybe a little bit of a backstop if she would need one, just because there was a lot going on, and it would be nice to have a couple of people who could practice with all the commotion to come in the household. But for those of you who know her, once I did get my license and I said, hey, do you have any clients for me? She said, go get your own clients, buddy. So I had the license and entered it for that reason, but ended up really taking to it and leveraging my sphere from a previous life. And the rest is kind of history. I think the more I got into the industry, the more I saw what I liked and what I wanted to help impact. And now here we are.
And as I recall, your background was accounting, right?
Yeah, originally I was in accounting, so I'm a CA. So was working with PricewaterhouseCoopers years ago, and then transitioned that into sports and entertainment, and then from there,
real estate.
From there, real estate, exactly, yeah. Cool. So, but yeah, it's a bit of a varied background, but it's all played its role in helping shape how things are right now.
Yeah, for sure. So tell us about your TREB experience in terms of like committees or volunteering, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so as far as TREB goes, I have been most involved with the finance committee, 2 years sitting on the finance committee, which has been really interesting stuff. And to your point, I mean, it plays a bit off of my background in finance. So it's been helpful to me to put a little bit more meat on the bone and what it is that TREB does and where the money goes and where it comes from. And I guess by virtue of that, it's given me a little bit more insight into strategies and planning as well. So it's definitely opened my eyes to a lot of the inner workings at TREB because we do get to see all the different parts. And I've also been on the Realtor Quest committee for the better part of 2 years, which is somewhat of a there hasn't been a Realtor Quest. So we've been a committee talking about how best to run this when it's ready to run. And now there is a plan in place, but unfortunately the initial one that was planned was postponed due to COVID, but that has been another experience that I've been involved in over the last couple of years.
Yeah, just a lot of Zoom meetings. I mean, with all the committees
exactly.
I've done with TREB, it's just Zoom meeting, more Zoom meetings.
Exactly.
So what do you think is the biggest issue in real estate in our industry in Toronto?
I think
about that.
For me, it is first and foremost, it's reputation of our industry, of our realtors. I think we all agree, those of us who are in it, and frankly, most of the people out there can agree that 99.9% of the industry are exactly what we want them to be. Yeah. However, I do think that just due to the unintended target we wear on our backs, there is the ability for media and for popular opinion to shape our reputation in a way we don't want. So I think protecting our reputation and I guess as a subtext to that, the professionalism of the industry, ensuring that all of our members are aware of what their role is, are aware of ethical guidelines, and really just operating in a way that is what we would expect of our colleagues and what consumers would expect of our profession is what we need to preserve and enhance. So I'm not really running, and I don't think you are either. And I would throw the question back at you, but I'm not really running to to say there's anything wrong per se. I do think though, there's always stuff that could be done better. And I see the work that TRREB does. And I think that to be able to help impact that ability to enhance the profession is something that's really important. And to me, the most important thing for what TRREB can do is to.
I think so
to
too.
build up.
That's actually part of my official platform, which is just like the PDF form that we filled out. But
There
I actually
you
do
go.
feel that was the main problem. And the reason why, I mean, first of all, obviously you have 66,000 agents. So you're going to have a spectrum. You're going to have amazing agents. You're going to have really crappy agents. And obviously the media is going to pick up on the crappy ones. Issue that's going to happen is that if you start getting a lot of the very negative media stuff, then all the public starts turning against you, and then all the government decides to make a whole bunch of new laws that are really, really bad for the industry. And we maybe could have stemmed that at the beginning just by either more education for both the realtors and for like the public, just to soften that blow so people understand about, for example, closed bidding, that kind of stuff. And then hopefully it wouldn't get to the point where the government just does a knee-jerk reaction and just passes a whole bunch of really dumb laws. That was like really
couldn't agree more.
my main goal.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that that's what this outcome we're seeing is a lot of these announcements that are taking place, and they're such vague announcements. Like they're such decisions that really aren't decisions. They're just, they're headlines, they're buzzwords, they're what the public thinks they want to see, but nobody really understands. And it's a way to say, hey, we're going to fix this. We're going to fix what the realtors are doing, without really digging into what the actual problems are. And a lot of us in the industry talk about it all the time and say like, stop. And as you know, you mentioned closed bidding. I mean, open bidding is what my business was initially built to help push, but I couldn't be more against what the government's saying that seems to be in favor of what we do. So there's just such a misguided approach to things because people aren't equipped with facts, and they really go to the lowest common denominator and follow that because it makes good news. When you see something crappy, it makes great news.
It's clickbait. It just panders to a whole bunch of people and says, great, I'm going to vote for that. And you're like, it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
I do feel that they need to give the option for the home seller to do whatever they want, whether it's, maybe they have the option of closed, open, whatever it is. I mean, that's great if you have the option, but if the federal government decides to come down and just say, you can't do this, you can't do that. Like the worst case scenario I can see is to get to the point where they say, you know what, all these auctions are bad. So what we're going to do is your appraised impact value times 3. That's the most, like, that's what you have to sell
right.
it for. And then you're like, what the hell's going on, right? But I can see that happening if it goes down, like really, really down that path.
It's possible that's it. I think it's like you said, these knee-jerk reactions create policy or suggest policy. There's always going to be someone who loves it, right? Like there's two sides of the spectrum, and there's lots of consumers who are frustrated who will buy into what people are telling them is the solution.
For sure.
But there's no fact-based work being done behind that. It's kind of like I don't remember the analogy, but they're putting it out there before they've done the research, and then they'll figure it out afterwards. Where now, a clock is ticking on this particular issue. They've said April 1st is the day that open bidding is allowed, whatever that means. I'm kind of hoping it is an April Fool's joke. Like maybe the date is something, but they didn't actually say what that looks like. So now the clock's ticking for 11 months on, okay, let's figure out what that's going to be. Right. So, but to your point, that'll be after the election takes place anyway. So they'll have received whatever votes they might be getting. And then maybe they'll pull, who knows, right? So,
I mean, without getting too political, I'm very cynical about our governments, about what they're proposing.
Well, that's it. I mean, I do believe that everybody, at their core, everyone's got the same intention of making things easier for consumers. It's just, you've got to follow what's out there and look to the answers that will actually achieve that, right? None of these are a turnkey answer, right? Like if supply is a problem, which it is, government could invest everything, they could take our military budget and put it into building houses, but realistically speaking, this is still something that just needs to be moving forward, and the discussion needs to be about that with as much money put towards it as they can. It's not an overnight thing.
For sure. I mean, just taking millions of dollars and just building a bunch of houses. I mean, I guess that kind of fixes the problem, like temporarily. It doesn't fix the systemic problem of an inventory problem.
Right. There's just, So anyway, I mean, and like you said, I know this isn't a whole political thing, but this is though, I mean, it's indicative though, like this is what's exciting about even, like people like you who are running, and I'll selfishly say people like myself and probably everybody else who's running, we care, right? Like we're engaged in what is impacting this industry. And it's not just about, I hate to say it, it's not just about, hey, let's all make a lot of money, right? I think good realtors get paid. I think those who are doing it right are going to be successful in this industry. But the more we're able to equip them with tools and hopefully impact policy where possible and education, to your point, the better off we will be collectively. And that's kind of what the goal is for anybody in a position of governance over things.
And that's really the main goal. I mean, ideally, you vote for us. I mean, you got to vote for a lot of people, but the idea is you assemble the core board of directors, and that sort of guides TREB into whichever direction that's going to go. And like the real estate industry is a juggernaut. Okay, like TREB is a juggernaut. Like it is the largest board in the world. It controls a lot of power, hopefully used for good, right? But like really, you want to be able to steer that and govern that, so that it goes in the right direction for all of us, because housing is very, very important. I mean, it's like Canadian dream, I guess, of home ownership.
Absolutely.
So that's really good.
Yeah, it's I'm excited as to where things are going. I mean, I know that prices suck, and frankly, they fluctuate. I know that there's things that are out of our control, regardless of how, professional we are and how much we know and learn and stay in tune with things. The nature of everything, inflation and all that, there's things that are outside of our control in our positions. But I do think that, I truly believe that, again, the vast majority of people in this position are the best equipped people to be helping people steer that course. And it's such an important decision that, we just need people at the helm that are guiding the right narrative.
I think so. I mean, it was kind of stringent, I guess, to become a candidate to become a board of director. You need minimum 5 years. You need like a criminal check. You need to have volunteered a lot in the boards and committees and that kind of stuff. Like you have to volunteer for stuff and then give back, right? But
it's nice to know neither of us is a criminal, so that's confirmed.
That's always nice to know. Yeah.
our checks came back clear, I guess.
Just to be clear for everybody watching, we're both not criminals. Okay, just want to get that out there.
I might have paid somebody off to clear my name, but no, that didn't happen. No, it is. You're right though, because I don't see this in other boards often where there's such a specific and intense criteria. And frankly, the fact that in our race alone, there's 9 people running.
Yeah.
There's 66,000 realtors, but first of all, putting your name out there to do it. I mean, I think it's possible that at least a couple of them have been waiting to run for this board for a year or two, and they've had to amass that volunteer time in order to be able to do it, right? So I think, like in your case, you've been on, it's the MLS committee, is it?
For myself, I've been on the MLS committee for 3 years, and then that was my term limit, so I stopped, and then now I'm on the commercial board and the member engagement board.
Nice.
And like you said about the experience, right? I did my I just passed all the requirements, so this year I'm able to run. But previously, I just didn't have the requirements because it's pretty stringent, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, it is. It's intense, and I mean, even beyond the criteria, I mean, the sessions and like the education that candidates have to go through prior to it's. I mean, it's good. I guess it ensures that everybody is on the same page. And I'm a big fan of a level playing field, obviously, like when it comes to real estate and everything else as well. But yeah, it's been interesting. And I guess we're going to see. I mean, there's 9 people running, 4 positions for director at large, which is great. So, it's decent odds.
Good odds. Almost 1 in 5, 1 in 2, right? Yeah,
there you go. Yeah. But I mean, I think, not that we're talking to each other. We're in theory, I mean, we're running against each other, but we're obviously colleagues in the industry. And I'd love to see both of us go through there the same way that, I mean, I encourage people, go and read all the bios and watch all the videos. I think everyone's got a video. I'm not sure, or at least
I don't know. I think some
whatever it's
whatever
or don't whatever. But I mean, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of interesting stories and platforms. I do think you're right that there was some consistency, as it makes sense that there was, with I think what people feel is most important, education, professionalism. And that's good. I mean, it makes me comfortable that whoever does make it onto the board is going to have an agenda that makes sense and is going to have that set of hopes and dreams for things that is useful. And I like, how many people are on the board altogether? Is it like a dozen, give or
I think
take?
it's like a
Or
dozen, 12 to 16, somewhere around there.
okay, so I mean,
I don't know
yeah,
exactly the composition because it's like you have some director at larges, you have some like regional directors or something. So I don't exactly understand the whole makeup.
yeah. I mean, I mean, it's a small number of people relative, I guess, to just this particular race alone. Like this could make up, a quarter to a third of the board is just this one race alone. Like this is, it's not an insignificant voice at the table. And I think that's also another thing that's really important to me and boards that I've been in the past is I'm not a big fan of boards that are just there to go to meetings and sit and, try the coffee, or if it's Zoom, whatever, not try the coffee. And just kind of smile, nod, approve the minutes, adjourn. I'll see you in a month, right? Like this is actually because of the size of the board, and I think the influence that it's got on the grand scale of things. This is actually an organization that has the ability to impact things. So that's pretty exciting for whoever it is that does make their way on there.
For sure. I mean, people might complain about the bureaucracy and stuff, but again, it is like a behemoth TREB.
It's huge.
It's huge. And so, especially, I mean, about the money situation in terms of just like the amount of money coming in and stuff, like you need proper governance to handle that and to have the proper systems and checks all the way down the line so that everything runs smoothly. And then you need the individual like task force or committees or whatever it is to just deal with that one particular problem. That way it's just more organized. Otherwise you have an ad hoc bunch of people who just have opinions and then they just do random things. And that isn't very structured.
Exactly. Yeah. It allows focused discussion and things get done, right? Like when you make people accountable to specific things, you can actually expect outcomes rather than just, okay, nobody did it. Okay, let's put it on the agenda for next month, right? Like I don't think that happens as much, just by virtue of what you said. Like people are focused and people are put in roles. We've been in those roles, right? Like we haven't been board members, but being on committees has had an impact and had some I want to believe valuable input that has made its way to the board, because they can't all sit there and evaluate and discuss every single issue in complete detail, or that would be their full-time jobs.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, with the MLS committee, like I felt very fulfilled doing it because you actually make decisions on, I mean, yeah, it's adding a field or something, but still it was useful, and I can see like the change or the impact that I had.
Yeah.
So that's
well,
good.
And I think like to those people who haven't been in a committee, and I mean, first of all, obviously I encourage people to get involved with those things, but there's real discussions. Like, and I'm sure it's been, like you said, the same thing, like whether it's adding a field or changing the fiscal year end, like in isolation, these are not ground moving things, right? But they're important, and they're the kinds of decisions that need to be made to move an organization forward. And there's some really heavy debate. I don't know about you, but like in the finance committee, like there's some debate. People are like passionate
about whatever it is that they're talking about. I know.
Yeah. And I mean, admittedly, I wasn't always as passionate about every issue. Like sometimes I'm sitting there going like, Jesus, like, come on, like we're talking about like an apostrophe or not, or like something like minor, right? But at the same time, it's important that there are people, like that's why these committees are built, that you've got a diversity of opinions at the table where people can step in where something is merited. And it would be frustrating if everything just got the rubber stamp and everybody just yay,
whatever.
Right? Like I know people sometimes will roll their eyes in any meeting when somebody's like, whoa, I have a question, right? Because that happens and everyone's like, oh, but that's important to be able to make informed decisions. That's why these committees exist. And I want to believe that happens even more so at the board level, where the decisions are getting not just a rubber stamp to go to the board, but the final approval to move things forward.
For sure. I mean, hopefully you have a good diverse mix of like experience and that kind of stuff to bring so that everyone can have intelligent discussion and debate about whatever the topic is. And I think that's really good. I'm curious. So as a broker owner of On the Block, how has that, because I mean, obviously I don't own a brokerage, so I don't have that interface with TREB and as from the brokerage side. I mean, I occasionally hear stuff in committees where they're like, broker owners are like, this is an issue with this, or this is an issue with like deposits or whatever it is. I'm just curious, how has TREB helped with that? Like, has TREB been an integral partner with that, or are there a lot of like issues remaining? I'm just curious.
I haven't had any issues. I mean, I think yeah, if there was anything outstanding that was a concern, then yeah, I'd almost feel like I've got too much of an agenda to be running that's personal. But no, I mean, I think like you said, there's so many focused parts of TREB where people are put in the positions to do their jobs properly, that I think on the brokerage level, it is probably the easiest, and I say this, I guess being careful that there's other organizations we deal with as well, but it's probably the easiest organization in terms of getting things done quickly and efficiently the way we ask, rather than waiting on hold or being transferred or waiting for weeks to have a certain thing approved. Like agent onboarding is a big thing that we'll do, and that goes through multiple organizations, of which TREB is really the last step once like RICO is approved and all these other ones have approved. And the TREB process is literally less than 24 hours every time, and it's just done and there, and we've got no issue with that whatsoever. So from an operational perspective, TREB is great. There's nothing really that I would change. I think it's just about making sure that appropriate resources are there, because we have seen that the trend continues to be more and more small brokerages and precs, and more and more realtors entering the system, out of the education. So I think as those numbers grow, the resources will need to mirror that to some degree at all of these larger governing body levels. But to this point, it's been good to deal with it. I think I try to wear each of my hats separately, like broker owner, but I'm also a practicing broker, and so I try to look at it through both lenses. And if there is ever anything that I've got an issue with, I'm a little bit of a squeaky wheel. I haven't had to be a squeaky wheel with TREB really, which is good, but I would be. And especially if we're on the board, then we'll be squeaky in the boardroom, right? But
squeaky in the boardroom.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Not sure if you want to talk about other things like electronic lock boxes or broker bay or anything. Yeah. Or do you want to like,
I mean,
I have no idea.
It's been nice to see some of these things start to get introduced en masse. And Broker Bay is an example. We were paying Broker Bay. So as a brokerage, like many who were paying and now aren't, it's fantastic because it's a system we were on. And I think the more that can be integrated globally, the better.
I think so.
At the same time, to your point about choice, I do think everyone's entitled to a choice. If they want to opt out of something, they are entitled to that. But in terms of making things easy for the profession to work alongside each other, our brokerage, however many hundreds of deals or whatever, I'm not going to say thousands, that would be exaggerating, but however many hundreds of deals we've done, I could count on both hands the number that have been multiple rep, right? So virtually every deal we do is collaborating and cooperating with another brokerage. The more that process is streamlined in a way where everybody's on similar systems and not just governed by the same rules, I think it makes life a lot easier. And so Broker Bay is one example of that. I do like, I'll always want to see more ability with things like VOW and IDX sharing, like just not necessarily that it should be available to people outside the profession, but when people in brokerages and agents want to be able to leverage that information in an appropriate and legal way, I am a fan of being able to do that, building it into your website or building it into systems that you've got that are, again, following the rules. I think it's nice to know that this is information that TREB controls and can employ the technology necessary to make all sorts of new solutions available. With Realm coming, all these things that are down the pipe are going to be interesting changes that hopefully enhance the industry.
Yeah, I think so. I think all these technology changes are good. It's good that like they're on top of it, right? Honestly, I was trying to use Realm, kicking and screaming, but I've been using it more and more. I actually kind of like it.
Yeah, it's like every new thing is like, it's scary. For me too. I'm still not fully immersed into it, but we know it's coming. I think to give us a year plus to figure it out is more than generous, right? So I think TREB is realistic about pushback and about, it's an archaic industry. Like real estate is just old school through and through. And I've got nothing against people who want to do things in a traditional way and people who still own fax machines and all that. It is what it is. But, part of our reputation is built on our ability to stay with the times as well. So it's good to see. I think TREB is the most forward thinking in terms of actually doing things with technology versus any of the other places. I got to be
Yeah,
careful
no, I
about
mean,
keeping, I'm indirectly knocking people who I don't mean to be, but I think that, let's just say they're very forward thinking. Others are as well, but TREB's really up there.
even more forward thinking than
That's
the other
right.
forward thinking people.
That's right. They're more forward. Right.
More forward, but just a little bit more.
That's
than
right.
the other forward thinking people. I totally agree with you.
Yeah. So what about you? Like, are there, I try to keep an ear to the ground of what's coming and like technology stuff and all that. And it's all exciting to me. I mean, I haven't actually done much looking into things like you mentioned, electronic lock boxes and all that. Like, is that something you foresee being the new norm in TREB anytime now?
I don't know. We're gonna say no comment.
Yeah, that's
I
true.
think
We're all
general,
subject to, yeah, we don't want to speculate. Yeah.
I don't want to speculate on things I may or may not have heard, but I have used electronic lock boxes previously and I found them very, very useful, especially the tracking mechanism. So you can see when the realtor says that, hey, I was late or I wasn't late or whatever, or I came or I didn't come, you know, with the lock boxes that I use, they have a log so that you can see whether they came or not. You have a timestamp. So that's like a pure security thing. And on the second part of the security for the electronic lock boxes is that they could, depending on the model, you can lock people out during times. So although it is a little bit annoying when you're a little bit late, it means that people don't have the code and they can't just come in, you know, at midnight or something and just look around. So that I think is very, very good if they could somehow standardize that. But again, it's a contentious issue to my understanding, just because it's expensive to have lock boxes.
Yeah.
When I had them, I think they're like $200 each. I had like 4 of them or something. And it gets pricey versus like a $20 lock box that you just use. But you have that advantage of, you have like individualized security codes, or maybe you have like an app token or something where only that person is paired with that particular time or that lockbox. And so that security really, really helps. So as a technology, I think that would actually be a good step forward. But I mean, logistics wise and money wise, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's just such a unique thing. Every time anything is implemented, it's not like you're implementing it at a brokerage of even 1,000 people. Like, you know, like the better
66,000 realtors, 70,000 like unofficial or something, plus the people who come from out of boards, like 66 like registered Toronto realtors that have paid like the dues.
That's it. And they don't all learn the same way. They don't have the same opinions. I mean, don't get me wrong. Everyone will be subject to what is decided by virtue of being a member. But I think TREB is very purposely careful in not going too far too quickly without really doing everything they can to ask the questions. So we're going to see with things like rules changing and all that, and the increasing need to ensure professionalism. Like, TREB talks about it, like, and this isn't, I don't think this is breaking confidentiality, because it's not just in finance committee. Like, this is a discussion point that, you know, John DeMichelle will talk about publicly, and we'll all talk about that. You know, we need to be really vigilant on that handful of people who ruin it for everybody else and make an example out of them. So, you know, we're not RICO. We're not the ones necessarily laying down punishment, but I think whatever we can do to help educate them and put them in a position to not make the mistake in the first place. You know, and maybe technology has a part in that as well, but I really think it's just about mindset and the way people are coming out of education and straight into this industry. Groups like yours, you know, let's plug real estate rookies, right? Like there's a lot of, and you know, and I do a different group that's not the same, but like, I think the intent is like, let's just give people a place to ask questions. Let's try to provide answers where we can. Let's generate discussion. I think TREB is a great forum to do that as the overall body with a direct link to everybody. And everyone's saying the same thing. Like, that's what kills me. Like, everybody has the same opinion. I think everyone wants to be the loudest one at the table, maybe, but like, we're all saying the same thing, right? Like, we're all just, let's just move forward. We're all going to do better. We're all going to have a better time doing this if we all just do it the right way. So
everyone's heart is in the right place. Like, we all have an idea, like, let's move forward, make it more professional, whatever the direction is. And then there's going to be the bad apples that, unfortunately,
it's a tough pill to swallow, especially when you're new and everyone wants to be doing deals quickly. You know, everybody wants to get things done, make a lot of money. And when you don't, shortcuts are very tempting. And, you know, it's not just in breaking rules, just even in like the marketing, that all these companies that tell you, hey, for the price of half a commission check, you'll have this system that's going to solve all of the world's problems for you. But like, it's hard. You can't govern all of that stuff. Like, it's not all great, but the more people know, the more people ask questions and are a little bit humble and realize they will do better if they do it the right way. They just have to do it the right way, and that'll
Yeah, I
be
mean,
sustainable.
TREB does what they can, right? I think they have like administrative fine if you start removing pictures or something like that, right? Which is good because previously they didn't. So a lot
Yeah.
of bad apples would just delete all of their photos, and you're like, I have no idea what this house looks like. And the
Right.
only advantage was for the agent that did that. And so I'm glad that they cracked down on that. I mean, it took a little bit while, but I'm glad that they cracked down on that, gave them fines, and hopefully, I actually haven't seen that in a long time. I don't know about you, but
The fines coming down, you mean, like actual
no,
fines?
the people removing photos.
Oh, the actual act. Yeah.
Yes.
Like people are learning. I think that's what
Yeah.
it takes. And I mean, we've been guilty of a warning here and there for things, right? And it happens, but that tells me that somebody's watching. Like that's all you need, whatever role you're in. If you're aware that, either A, somebody's watching, so I'm not going to make this mistake, or you didn't know it was a mistake, but someone's there to tell you very quickly so you never do it again. That's important. And I think TREB's been really, really good at doing that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I got like a warning because my legal description wasn't like fully complete because I think it got cut off or something like that. So I had to put the rest of the legal description, right? Little things like that. But but then now I know how to put the full legal description on there.
Right. Well, that's it. I think the more all of these governing bodies can eliminate the gray area, right? Because there's gray area everywhere. There's shortcuts everywhere. I think TREB's really identifying really particular issues, like removing pictures. Like that's a specific issue.
That is a very specific issue. That was a problem for a lot of us.
Right. And being able to identify that specifically addressed it. Like you said, like I haven't seen it happen either. So
I haven't seen it. Like I remember seeing it a lot. It was just like I'm looking at houses, like there's no pictures here, no pictures here. But now it's like I don't recall seeing that in like at least a year kind of thing. Like
well, I mean, that's it. Like that's the kind of factual evidence that they can lean on in saying we did this.
Yeah.
And forward, this happened, right? So it's great. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting next. Cool. The voting is what, like a week? Is it?
The voting is on May 12th, depending when this video comes on. So the voting starts on May 12th at noon until May 17th at noon.
So it's 5
days. And then
days,
there will be the annual meeting, which will announce the winner and a bunch of other bylaw changes, which will change the fiscal year, which I think makes sense myself. But I don't know why they changed it. I think they said something about the weather or something had to change it. Now they want to change it back. I think it makes perfect sense to just go calendar year.
Yeah, calendar makes sense. It's in line with not just most of the other brokerages, but it's in line with AREA and CREA and the way that our fees are paid. It's useful. So.
Yeah, that would be really, really helpful. So you don't have to keep remembering to pay this little drips and drabs and like I don't remember what I paid and what I didn't pay.
Exactly.
So that's good. Although I think there might be some transitional issues if they change it. So either we're going to have to be on the boards for another 6 months, or maybe they switch it over and someone's on the board for like a year and a half or something. I'm not really sure.
I don't know.
Well, because they're going to change the calendar year for like, I guess, board of directors and for committee members and task members. So suddenly it's not like, July 1st, it's like January 1st. So that everyone is, that's up in the air. We'll worry about it when the bylaw changes.
Well, that's it.
Exactly. Passed, I guess.
Exactly. It'll be plus or minus a half year.
Plus or minus a half year, like whatever. Volunteering anyway.
What's 6 months between friends? Exactly.
Yeah.
So
cares, right? Cool. Yeah. I guess that's about it. So I guess you want to sign off, Dan?
Yeah, I appreciate it. And we'll keep talking. Good luck. And I'll see you on the 17th.
See you on the 17th and see what happens. All right. All right, everyone. Talk to you later. Bye.
Take care.